Hi, I am Neziha Yılmaz from Istanbul Technical University, Istanbul at Turkey. Our publication title is A New Metric for Labor Productivity with a case study of a multifamily residential project. According to literature, worker or labor performance and productivity are more difficult to measure than other factors because they are dependent on so many factors, such as socioeconomic culture, legal and environmental restrictions, extreme weather conditions, and excessive work hours. Multiple studies were conducted that the models for measuring the construction project performance generally determines the factors and their weights. Actually, this process is found as intensive and time-consuming. Also, the statements for factors or weight can be measurable and subjective. Studies on the productivity calculations focuses on the use of the material and equipment and also the use of the work activities individually. However, the use of manpower for periodic completion amounts of the construction units and the determination of labor productivity are not studied in detail. As a result, a simple to use effective labor productivity metric is a need. To present a labor productivity metric analysis with a case study, it's objected to compare the project progress with labor productivity, take some managerial actions quickly, and fill the gaps in the literature on case study-based labor productivity examinations. In our methodology, firstly, a literature review was performed to investigate the productivity measurement of labor in the construction sector. Secondly, a labor productivity metric was proposed to fill the gap and also to make quick decisions. After that, a case study of multifamily residential project performed, some expert opinions are taken, and lastly, a delayed project was rescheduled. On the literature, of course, the productivity in the construction industry is a very common and popular topic, and they're generally focusing on the factors that affect the productivity or measuring the productivity. Also, this can be classified at industry level, project level, firm level, or activity level. Factors affecting the labor productivity with a specific focus, the most popular method for measuring the labor productivity, it seems as using the labor hours to determine the completed work quantities. In other terms, work outputs. Also in the literature, for example, the concrete production, rebar production, or similar specific work items are examined for labor production, but as a whole work or work packages are not. Dividing a project as a whole into meaningful segments and using these segments for efficiency or productivity measurement is an often undescribed process. The labor hours used in the metrics should be considered with the modifications because not all the days are not working at the site, and elimination of the time spent on the construction site other than the performing work activities is a need. In the proposed labor productivity metric, the two broad categories of the construction projects are considered. First one is the vertical construction and any type of the building type projects. It could be with the same floor plan, and one floor might be repeated the other floors. And also in construction in horizontally, like highways, railroads, bridges, and etc. In these projects, repeatable certain distances in terms of kilometer or meter. As a consequence of these two broad categories, we can divide the projects into logical units. Also, we need to answer some kind of questions like how many units of the work are produced in a specified payment period, and also how many people work for the completed work units. Both of these questions can be obtained from daily, weekly, or monthly reports on the sites. And also they can be monitored on progress payment documents. In the formula for metric, LP indicates the labor intensity MP indicates the modified average manpower, and of course, non-working days were eliminated. UN indicates the unit numbers, and PC indicates the percentage of complete. And the case study, a multi-family residential project is selected with a 216 repeating units, 1, 2, or 3 bedroom configurations layout is available for this project. 7-story residence and 2-story precast concrete garage is also in the scope. The targeted completion date of the project is assumed as end of the May of 28. And also the results should be evaluated with the periodic labor productivity and average labor productivity, because not always the monthly productivity with the same. 1 month, maybe the decision makers can face with the extreme weather conditions. The other month, they may face with the economical conditions. Because of that, we need an average and accumulated labor productivity to analyze also. In here, we will see the unit numbers and percentage of the complete, modified average manpower from the site reports always, and finally, we are dealing with the labor productivity. As we mentioned before, the labor productivity is calculated by dividing the modified average manpower to the multiplication of unit number and percent complete. About rescheduling, the decision makers are decided to reschedule of the project at the end of the month February, because the productivity rates were too low. And also they decided to regenerate the targeted completion percents and accumulated completion percents. And actually in February, the project is almost 55% completed. And it means almost another year is needed to final completion but the targeted is at the end of the May. With the usage of this metric and rescheduling of the project schedule, we'll end up with the end of the project is end of the November, which means in the S-curves can be used in the construction sector in generally cost estimation or other productivity evaluations. But in these S-curves, the gray one is highlighted the revised accumulated targeted completion, and the orange one is the original accumulated targeted completion. So maybe the project is not finished at the end of the May, but with this metric, the project can be finished at the end of the November. So the decision maker is not have to waiting for end of the next February. Also, we take some expert opinion. All of the experts are convinced about the usability and applicability is quite high for this metric and case study, but practically there should be more case studies, and these case studies should include some specific type of the projects. Also, the expert 2 indicates that this metric and case study is applicable for the management personnel who are unable to visit the construction on site. And also, expert 3 said this metric is become a guideline. It has a great potential for all workers and for all decision makers for delegating the resources. At the conclusion, this paper provided a quantifiable labor productivity metric. A case study of a multi-family residential project is conducted. A delayed project was rescheduled using the metric, and also this metric and case study was carried out with experts, and generally metric is useful and applicable. Applying the metric on a larger scale and in some specific projects can be evaluated in the future studies. The limits of this metric is the resistance of the field personnel to using the metrics and Of course, their inability to transfer field data to Office in a healthy way to compute that metric and productivity. In the future studies, more case studies on different types of project is needed. Maybe the limits can be dealing with again, and these case studies should be with a defined processes, and also experienced construction professionals who use and learn the metric should be integrated with that case studies. Thank you for your listening.